Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And here's another example of what tends to happen in the slightest bit of anarchy or chaos. Now, this is an article from ZeroHedge.com dealing with the situation over there in Ceuta, Spain, as they had this migrant invasion, which, if you've been seeing the trend, right, with all these different countries that not too long ago had their borders wide open, fighting against those that were cautious against just having an open border and having anybody and everybody come into your country. These countries are now facing different types of problems, and one of the main things that's common amongst most, if not all, of these cases is women getting taken, right, grabbed up, and obviously in most cases against their will, if not all cases. But also you have violence, and then there's also the discontent of the actual citizens of that country. So I'm going to read a little bit of this here. It says, after mass migrant invasion, 5 girls under 14 reportedly taken in Ceuta. And this should be something that, as a woman or even a man, right? Because when you read it, you'll see that men ain't exempt either. But in a place like Babylon or in some of these other countries, but particularly Babylon, because it's going to get real bad over here, people are of the mindset that what they see, they don't really care about what happens in some of these other countries, because this place isn't like that, right? There's this place that has cameras everywhere, and there's always people around, and you can call 911, or sometimes they just think like, oh, like that can never happen to you. Well, you better hope and pray that destruction doesn't hit this place, because that's going to be one of the first and main things that happens. And it literally, I did a lesson on this, a couple, maybe a month or two back, how even the, was it the World Health Organization or somebody somewhere, it was probably somewhere, or UN, but about basically them trying to address how often women end up getting sexually assaulted in situations of violence or chaos or even the slightest bit of anarchy. All right. So this is something that's very commonplace, but on the scale that it's about to be introduced to the world, when Jacob's trouble fully picks up, knowing that you should truly seek Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, because they ain't the situation you want to find yourself in, and yet a lot of people are going to find themselves in. You got women today that go around parading and advertising themselves, and when you look at these cases, when you look at some of these cases, man, some of these people, they don't care what you look like, right? Like the headline says here, these were under 14. They don't care what you look like, okay? Because some of these cases that you'll see, the women weren't even dressed, right? Women might not even be dressed provocatively, and they still get taken. Whether old or young, shit, you mess around on a bad day, you might even look like Lizzo and still get taken down. That's not my preference, but I'm saying, that's how real shit gets out here. So, yeah, man, you better start seeking the Lord, because the scriptures do say that you're going to have, when in this time of destruction, it says their houses shall be broken into, right? And then I forget which precept it's in, but it mentions their wives being ravished. So it says health sources have confirmed that Ceuta University Hospital has treated at least 5 girls over the past week for alleged assaults following the mass migrant invasion of Ceuta last month. All the girls are Moroccan and were reportedly under the age of 14 when they were taken. with an emergency doctor verifying the cases and noting that many of these minors are sleeping on the street because of a shortage of places in shelters. Yeah, because now you have cases where you have migrants coming, you have more and more people coming into the country, and the article goes into how there's not enough resources, as they're saying, to be able to accommodate, right, for all of this influx. Because you have the people that are already living there, and then you have the additional migrants that are coming in. Now, the scriptures mention, right, about the prudent man looking well into his goings, right? Examples are, if you start to pay attention to what's going on around the world, and you start to get the sense that, you know what, this place isn't, the world isn't how it was, 7 years ago, a decade ago, 8 years ago. Nowadays, this is the shit that's going on in these different areas. You might mess around and take a vacation to some country thinking you chilling and shit, and you might run into a migrant over there who's looking for food. And here it is, you done brought him one of the finest entrees, at least in his mind, from a foreign country. Because you wandered, you and your girlfriends wandered way too far from the resort. And now you got him wondering about things. So these are things that you got to think about. But as the world gets more and more dangerous, and this goes in line with that saying, which I'll try to recollect in a bit. But as the world gets more and more dangerous, these people get more and more defenseless. They lose the ability to use their brain, their common sense, their critical thinking, their foresight. They lose all of that more and more and more because the world is getting more and more dangerous around you. But Babylon has put you in this bubble to where each day, each month, like your brain is actually like it's getting weaker and weaker because people don't actually exercise their brains. They don't do things that force their brains to work, to think, to form new, what they call those neural pathways, by learning new things and reading and doing challenging things that require your brain to actually think. They don't do that. So it's just like you ever seen a crippled person, how their legs are very skinny because they don't use it. They can't. So if you have a muscle or a body part that you don't use, eventually it's going to get weaker and weaker. And that's the thing with these people's brains. And they don't see it because the coding or the covering for that is the dopamine release, right? Where or the release of was it serotonin or endorphins. When you are constantly on social media, right? You're constantly, doing entrapped in this digital world. If you notice, a lot of it is visual, right? Visual or audible, and it's all going straight into your head. Your brain is constantly getting fed information. Like you can open YouTube to try and look for something, and what pops up on your homepage is already distracting you. Before you know it, 10, 15, 20 minutes have passed by, and you haven't even searched for what you came to YouTube for. Because this YouTube short popped up, then this one popped up, then this one came right after, and then so it's a constant influx of information into your brain, and it's releasing dopamine based on what you're seeing, whether it's funny or exciting or enticing, and people are losing the ability to actually use their brain in a good way, especially here in Babylon and certain other parts of the world. So when you're put in a fight or flight situation and you counted on your brain to work, it's not going to work the way it should. Because that pressure is going to cause it to just crack. It's just going, shit, I don't know what to do. That's these people. All right. Anyway, the next one I had here is going back to this guy, Fauci. So as they're investigating his case more and more, this headline came out about how it says here, Fauci privately flagged miscarriage risk before telling pregnant women there were no red flags. All right. And in the article, I'll read the first part, but I'll sum it up for you. It says newly disclosed text messages show Dr. Anthony Fauci privately entertained the possibility that the C19V could trigger first trimester miscarriages months before he told the public there were there was no risk. And I remember watching a video. It was like a documentary where, not a documentary, it was actually like an interview, where you had certain individuals that were, knowledgeable in this field, and they were discussing the dangers of this. And they mentioned the dangers to pregnant women, right? But here it says, I'm going to actually see if I can find exactly where he said it. Right, so it's saying that there were texts. I don't remember if it was a group chat, but it were texts between him, Dr. Vivek Murthy, and Dr. Rochelle Walensky, if you remember her from the CDC. And they were discussing, right, about pregnant women, right? So one of the messages, the questions here was, for pregnant women considering getting the V, are you aware of any data or theoretical reason why, getting V'd up early or late in pregnancy would be preferred? And any sense of when there will be more robust data on the V risk in pregnant women? And then Fauci says, basically that there are no data or theoretical reason to believe that, getting V'd early versus later in pregnancy would be preferred. He said, yet some people, even female healthcare professionals, feel concerned about injecting a genetic V very early in pregnancy. Then he came back and said, I asked around a bit more, and another issue came up that you need to be aware of. He wrote, since many people have significant cytokines, storm and fever after the second dose, this theoretically could be associated with miscarriage in the first trimester. So, yeah, he threw in the words theoretically, could, X, Y, and Z. But then when he turned around and see if I can find it, he turned around, I think they said, 7 months later, or some months later, this is what he said to the public, right? It says months later, actually, hold on. Yeah, he told viewers the FDA had found thus far, and we have to be careful, but thus far, no red flags about pregnant women. And then he later on came and said, where is it? No indication whatsoever. It's pretty clear that pregnant women should get the V. So why not mention to the public the possible risk of this, first trimester miscarriage and all of these things? Why not? Why, in fact, go and tell them that they should go and do these things? Now, I bring this out because this isn't breaking news. This isn't, oh, wow, nobody knew this and, we're just finding out. Like, what I mean is we knew that obviously this wasn't advisable and we did advise against it. But you know what happened? Our videos were taken down. Our channels were deleted off of YouTube. When you go on social media, people were literally doing videos demonizing people who were just like, I'm not interested in taking this because I don't trust it. They demonize them, right? And then they will point to this guy. They'll point to this guy, Fauci. They'll say, hey, look, they said this, they said that, so trust the science. Do you know more than the scientists and the experts? And then they went and did it. And it made you feel like crap, and you did it anyway because you thought that because they said this is what you got to do, so you went and did it, right? Going to show you, and we don't feel bad for people because common sense, once again, like what I just mentioned before reading this article, people's brains don't work. They don't question anything anymore. They just hear certain titles, doctor and expert and this title and that title, and all of a sudden it's true for something that's going to go into you. But what's interesting is they're pinning it here on Fauci, but it was a system, a worldwide thing, because you had these social media platforms that were censoring anybody that was saying anything against this using common sense. And people went and did it anyway. So as the precept goes, which I have here, in Ecclesiasticus 12 and 13, who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beast? If you go and jump in a lion's den, and the lion with tears in his eyes got his arms open and hugs you and kisses you and walks away with you, why should somebody pity you? Because what business do you got doing in the lion's den? And if you're trying to charm a serpent, You trying to play the little flute shit, thinking you Aladdin or whatever, and that shit bites your ass. You realize that you literally could have done anything else in the world but that, right? Like you made a choice, you made a decision to go and sit in front of a dangerous serpent, cobra, whatever snake it is, and start playing music to get it to move around. What, you want to dance for you? Of all the things you could be doing with your life, you want to go sit down and get a snake to dance for you. Oh shit. Damn. Hey, this world is messed up, man. You know? And so why should somebody pity you for doing shit like that? Like, damn, bro, that's the shit. Hey, well, that's what you get. You know? So going back to this here, this is kind of similar and equivalent, right? Similar in situation, because we told you dealing with the enemy, and the scriptures tell you never trust thine enemy. But you know what they did? They went and trusted them. And you know what's interesting? They're gonna do it again. That's the funny thing. Right? It's like, yo, once again, and that's like, if you notice, this isn't normal. There's a correlation between the level of content and brain rot that is happening to these people in between these events that take place. The way people look at how people use the internet today versus how they used it 10 years ago or 12 years ago. You know, look at how people look at the kind of content that's on Instagram or Twitter or X or YouTube now versus how it was before. Pranks, right, used to be harmless and actually funny. Now they're just rage baiting somebody or doing something like that's not even, safe for attention. And people consider that to be funny. A lot of memes that people put up now, they're not even jokes. They're just, people saying real shit about the hardships of their life. But because everybody's going through it, they can relate. So now it becomes funny. But it's like it actually gives insight into the minds of the people today. And you're like, yo, what the hell? Like, people are sick. This is sick. Like, this is what makes, because hey, there's truth in comedy. So this is what makes its way out of people's minds and onto the public internet. The hell's going on here? So and this is what's being fed back. It's like a feedback system, right? Like a feedback loop. This is what gets put out, and what also gets fed back into the minds of people, corrupts whatever they got, and then it gets brought back out again in a worse way. So when it comes time for them to critically think about shit, they can't. They literally can't. And it's like, you thought a year or two ago it was hard to have a conversation, like a real conversation with somebody. Nowadays it's like, yo, you can't even talk about regular stuff with people. Like, people don't even know what certain things even are, and you're wondering like, oh shit, what's happening, man? So anyway, this is what's going on, and when they come out with the next phase of the plan that they're coming out with, these people are going to be perfectly primed for that, right? Perfectly primed for that, to sit here and believe blatant lies and eat it up because they've been conditioned that way. So, hey, this is clearly why the Lord needs to send Yahushua back, and he will, right? To reset this world, because it's if you had a scale from healthy being 100%, and then unhealthy being 0, this world is past zeros in the negatives right now. So it needs a reset. And it needs a very, very, very shocking reset. It needs it quick. Anyway, with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rechak Kudash. Until next time, Shalom.